and welcome to a very wood grain and smoker's patina kind of episode of Ben's Junk. Yeah, we're heading back to 1976 today, just in case it weren't painfully obvious enough. So anyway, I know I'm not exactly known for being a video game person. I know it's not a strength of mine, but I've had a long-standing interest in what are generically known as Pong consoles. And anyone that's watched Archive long enough knows that I do tend to take an interest in the prehistory of things, as I've come to call it. Whatever led up to whatever item or TV show or whatever going mainstream. I don't know, it's just always been an interest of mine. Home video, what led up to Betamax and VHS, that sort of thing. So yeah, obviously video games prior to them really going mainstream with the Atari 2600 does carry a certain fascination with me. And so probably the most famous of these Pong consoles would be the APF TV Fun. And silly me, I thought there was just one TV Fun out there. But as it turns out, there were at least three. And what drew me to the Fleabay listing for this one, admittedly, was that it came with a very James Bond looking light gun. And I didn't think this was a thing yet in 1976, certainly not on any kind of home console. But yeah, that became the deciding point in me picking this up. Now, I figured that this was just some sort of aftermarket accessory that you could hook up in lieu of a controller and play that way. But no, as it turns out, this particular model, the 402, it's known as Sportsarama. And this is truly meant to be a sports sort of thing, both in the games themselves and how you play them. So, of course, when we think video games, we usually think of there being some kind of way to just have one person play. But this seems to be pretty explicitly designed to have it be 2 or 4 players. Not just 1 or 3, but always 2 or 4. So I find that kind of amusing in the case of this because at the very least you're going to have 2 people hunched over the console because the main potentiometers are just built right in. And of course there is something kind of amusing about it, especially if it's adults and they're hunched over this and just twiddling away. So anyway, if you want 4 players, well, you gotta use these handy dandy little kind of cocktail shaker looking things, although it operates more like a pepper grinder. But anyway, a very short cord on these things. And I don't know if the 2 that I've got came from different units or what, but one's got a little longer cord than the other. And there's no evidence of any kind of homebrew repair splice job sort of thing. But yeah, so just for maximum absurdity, I'll just go ahead and plug them in. So if you can imagine 2 people hunched over the unit itself and then 2 people on very short cords here, short leashes, playing with cocktail shaker, pepper grinder hybrid sort of things. Let me move this closer. So I was mentioning this is really meant to be 2-player or 4-player. So when they say singles and doubles, they mean it. So we'll set it for tennis. They mean 1-on-1 or 2-on-2. And of course, there are other games and you can adjust the dials accordingly. But yeah, this is truly meant to be a competitive unit. So otherwise, just the basics, on and off, reset, which of course carried over to the Atari, and really just tons of subsequent consoles. As far as the serving goes, like in a game of tennis, you can have it be manual and you just press the button, or you can have it be automatic. And that's really kind of all there is to this. Now, if I turn this around, it's just a basic DIN connector for the light gun. I'm just calling it that. I'm not entirely positive that's what it is. And then just a basic 1/8 inch tip sleeve connector for those cocktail shaker kind of things. And then, of course, the cord for the TV is hardwired in, which, of course, is the norm for these things. And, of course, when this was made, it was the phono-styled connector. But, yeah, I got to keep a stash of these little connectors handy. Of course, if you really want to be hardcore, you got a period TV and you do the whole splitter with the switch and the devil's pitchforks and all that stuff if you really want to be insane about it. But anyway, yeah, there isn't that much to look at with this. Now, having said that, I'm going to have a tough time demoing this because I can't tell where the quirks end and the malfunction begins. The chief quirk, malfunction, whatever, being with the light gun. So I can have this, say, for skeet shooting. So you have the little dot going across the screen, and you'd think you're trying to shoot the little dot. Well, I can pull the trigger, as it were, on this, and I get a point. This doesn't have to be aimed at the TV at all. I can have it aimed at the ceiling, the wall, whatever, the floor. So let me take a cut here and I'll attempt to demo this. All right, here we go. It was kind of a tough decision, but I've opted to go with a totally direct feed demo segment here. And indeed, I took a picture of all this madness to start. This is actually one of my jumping the shark kind of setups. So just take a quick look at the setup here. So anyway, I have this set for tennis doubles right now. So a 4-player game, 2-on-2. And I'll just show you the layout. So even though one would think that, say you are playing just a 2-player game, that you'd be using the controllers built into the console, but that is not the case. If it's the simpler it is, the more it relies on the plugged-in stuff. So here's how it goes. Player 1 on Team A, we'll say. That's cocktail shaker number 1. I just call it that. And player number 2 on Team A, that's the left built-in controller. Player number 1 on Team B is the right built-in controller. And lastly, player number 2 on Team B is cocktail shaker number 2. Now, there is no way I'm going to be able to demo a 4-person game by myself, so I think I'm going to have to kick this into singles mode. All right, here we go. So this is tennis 1-on-1, entirely done through the cocktail shakers. And this is going to be interesting, me trying to play against myself and talk all at once, especially with these two wonky controllers with different length cords and stuff. Now, there is a quirk I've noticed in some of the dry runs I do. Sometimes you cannot see the ball, as it were, moving on screen on the direct feed into the camcorder. So I'm going to have to look away periodically and intentionally miss shots just to make sure that you can actually see the ball in play here. So I will hit manual serve, and I'll just let this go just to make sure that the ball is visible in my feed. Yep, looks good. So anyway, I will serve, and I'll try. See, I'm already kind of losing here, but yeah, hey, I lost to myself. Give it a couple extra seconds. There we go. And unlike the later Atari Pong on the 2600, you can't do any real trick shots here. There is no backspin sort of stuff like that. You can't really slam the ball on your competitor. There's going to be a lot of innuendo in here, kids. Just get used to it. So anyway, let's try this again. I will attempt to play something resembling a serious round of tennis. But I wouldn't have my hopes too high. Every now and then you can kind of get into a bit of a standoff. But I don't think that's going to happen. But sometimes if you can hit it just straight on, which I am obviously failing spectacularly at, it can kind of get hung up. We'll give it a couple extra seconds just to let itself load or refresh or whatever it is. Now, granted, on the monitor that I'm watching, it always works just great, but it's just that pesky direct feed that keeps giving me trouble. Of course, in a perfect world, I would have a split screen going here. Anyway, let's just try this 1 or 2 more times here just to see what happens here. Apparently, my left hand is doing quite well today. All right, one more time. Let's see if I can get any kind of straight on. Yeah, not really. So anyway, let's kick over to hockey. Okay, we're in hockey mode, and it may look like it's 4-player, but it is indeed still 2-player. Now, if it were 4-player, then each of the dashes would be truly independent. But as it stands, this is more like a game of more like foosball than hockey, air hockey, or a real game of hockey, certainly. So anyway, let's just try and serve here, make sure it's working. Yep. Now, this thing is kind of weirdly militant. You may have seen the ball just pass right through one of the players there, so it won't let the same team, as it were, hit the ball twice in a row, or the puck in this case if it's hockey. So it'll just sail right through. It becomes ghost hockey. Yep, see, it's weirdly militant about it, which seems kind of strange to me for 1976. I didn't think that would be something that could be necessarily a thing. And yes, sometimes you can get it stuck or get it into a bit of a little standoff with itself. Sometimes it breaks itself right out of the standoff. But it's not going to happen at that short a distance. So let me move number 1 out of the way, number 2 out of the way, and yeah, we'll just end that one. And it becomes very headache-inducing at times, too. There is no volume control on the console. You just get whatever beeps that you get. You get what you get. And I'm having a very tough time controlling this because my brain is not processing playing for equivalent to 4 people, as it were. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get much farther than this, which is just as well. So let me kick over to handball. All right, this is handball, and in my mind, this should be a potential 1-person game, but no. And the same rules apply. The same person cannot hit in this case, the handball twice. And yeah, this is just slightly sideways pong. I mean, this is just as simple as it gets. I'm not complaining or anything. But anyway, let's make sure that everything's working. Yep, I can see things in my feed. That doesn't mean it's going to happen every single time. Now, for whatever reason, the play on handball is pretty slow. Every now and then... Oh, there's a nice little pattern for you. There's the perfect illustration of not being able to hit the target, as it were, twice in a row. Okay, let's just move that slightly. That's about as much speed as you can get, but it seems like you can get kind of higher speeds on some of the other games. So this one never quite gets as exciting, as it were. We'll try this just one last time here. Of course, as always, I struggle to control 2 things at once. I guess I can't walk and chew gum at the same time either. Anyway, I think you get the idea here. All right, let's kick over to what you truly want to see, the gun stuff. All right, we are actually in quote-unquote doubles mode, but all the gun stuff seems to be 1 player, I think. So here's the deal. Yes, there are 2 sets of numbers on screen. It's still the same scoreboard as all the other games, but I cannot make any individual player do anything, cannot make it control anything in any way. And indeed, I think something is just simply not working here. So I have partially dismantled the gun and looked down there, and everything looks okay. I've cleaned the DIN connector that goes into the console and all that, and it just doesn't make any difference. So there's no real control here. So I technically have this set to doubles, but it's really how you get skeet shooting here. So you'll see a skeet, which is just the same old white square, just a bit bigger this time, bouncing around the screen. So I'll just go ahead and hit serve. Kind of cool in its own primitive way. I've got the gun just laying on the table. It's not pointed anywhere near the TV. So I'll just pull the trigger and I'll just magically score a point. That's all there is to it. Now, this one is probably served a bit better with camera footage, and lucky for you, I shot a little bit of B-roll on my phone a little while ago. Turn this on. I'll hit serve, pick up the old pistol, and yep, every time I pull the trigger, automatic winner. I can get it as willfully wrong as I want. Does not matter. And you probably learned more in 30 seconds of that than in anything else. So anyway, through the magic of editing, I am now in target practice mode. And so it's the same white square, the same skeet, I guess you could say, but instead of it moving around, it flashes on and off very slowly. So I'll show that to you here. It's like the world's most abstract art project. That's all there is to it. Now, once again, I'm just going to randomly pull the trigger, and I score a point. I can hit serve, I can mess with the other controllers all day long, and just absolutely nothing happens. You cannot lose this game. So if you truly suck at video games like I do, this is the one for you. Even though, like I said, I think it's just not working. Anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it a night here. So that's going to be it for this installment of Ben's Junk. I'll talk to you again soon.